Recent data suggests that 1 in 4 individuals has experienced narcissistic abuse in a close relationship. That's 25% of the population. But when we look at it from another angle, the scope becomes even more striking. Experts estimate that approximately 12 million people in the US meet the criteria for a personality disorder that includes narcissistic traits. Now, if each of those individuals has had just 5 significant relationships in their lifetime, that brings the number of people potentially exposed to narcissistic abuse to over 60 million. That's not rare. That's an epidemic level pattern of relational trauma. And it means this is not just a mental health issue. It's a neurobiological and social reality affecting the nervous systems, stress levels, and long-term well-being of millions. The beginning of a relationship with a narcissist is often captivating. The first contact, the first words, the first glances can be so powerful that they create a distinct space in the mind. The intensity of these early moments leaves an emotional imprint strong enough to create dependency from the very start. These relationships rarely begin with logic. They begin with emotional peaks, and the human brain is especially prone to registering peaks later on when things start to break, when feelings of worthlessness surface, even when emotional collapse sets in. The memory of that first stage overshadows everything. People become willing to betray their own reality just to feel that warmth again. This is why we refer to the first phase as the idealization stage. If the person you meet has narcissistic traits, this process begins the moment they notice you. They are intelligent, highly observant. They can sense what kind of love you are hungry for, which words impact you, even what you longed for as a child. And then they bombard you with systematic affection. During this phase, they present themselves as charming, witty, emotionally engaging. They make you laugh. They make you feel seen. They behave exactly like the version of a partner you have imagined in your mind. This is not a coincidence. A narcissist molds themselves into your ideal figure. It is not an accidental connection. It is a calculated mirror, because many narcissists are incredibly perceptive. They quickly assess the details that will make you feel happy, and they reflect back to you the most ideal version of what you're looking for. The first phase of a relationship with a narcissist is known in psychology as the idealization stage. It is a construction of perception. The moment a narcissist identifies you as a potential target, they begin to turn you into a project. They observe you closely, analyze your emotional patterns, and then initiate what feels like a flood of affection. But this is not ordinary kindness or mild interest. It is intense, deliberate, and almost hypnotic. Around them, you feel seen, valued, and uniquely special, because they are not just charming or fun. They are witty, energetic, and appear to align perfectly with who you believe your ideal partner should be. It feels as if the person you've imagined for years has finally come to life. The emotional impact can feel like a metaphysical encounter, but this is where a critical note must be made. Narcissists are not always shallow or empty. In fact, many are highly intelligent. They understand emotional language with alarming speed. They read what you need, what moves you, what you long to hear. Often, before you even articulate what you're searching for, they've already figured it out and begun to reflect it back to you. Like a chameleon, they shift into the version of themselves most likely to captivate you.
Don't forget to subscribe.
At this point, certain questions may rise in your mind. How did we never meet before now? Where have you been? Maybe love really does exist. And so the magical phase begins. Thoughtful gifts, romantic gestures, deeply emotional messages. Everything feels so perfect that it creates a sense of elevation. You feel like you're walking a foot above the ground. Reality becomes blurry, but the feelings seem real. In fact, they feel incredibly good. And because of that, you stop analyzing and start surrendering to the experience. From time to time, small doubts begin to surface in your mind. Something feels off. A quiet voice inside whispers, asking if everything is really as it seems, but almost immediately, you suppress that thought. The person in front of you is so convincing that you begin to question your own intuition. And that in itself creates deep mental conflict. You sense that something isn't quite right, but the affection and attention being shown are so intense that to question it makes you feel guilty. You feel like you're being unfair. And that guilt is actually one of the most strategic parts of the game. At this exact point, most people ask themselves the same question. If they didn't love me this much, would they be treating me this way? The answer is simple. No, because what's happening isn't love, it's strategy. They don't act this way because they love you. They act this way because they want to possess you. Because in their mind, you're not a person. You're an achievement. You represent something they want to acquire, a symbol of success. Maybe it's your appearance, your social circle, your intellect, or your financial stability. Whatever the reason, their focus isn't on who you are, but on what you signify. Inside the narcissist's mind, there is always a stage. It's a mental theater. And on that stage, you are the lead character. But you have no idea. Meanwhile, they play every role. They are the director, the actor, and the audience all at once. Every move is calculated. Every line is rehearsed. And as they watch themselves perform, they think, I am so impressive. That was flawless. Look how easily I took control. It may sound a little extreme, but at the same time, it probably sounds familiar, doesn't it? So the intense affection and powerful displays of love you experience throughout the relationship carry a very different meaning beneath the surface. It may look like you are at the center of their world, but in reality, the focus is always on their own ego. A narcissist doesn't love you. They love the feeling of victory they experience through you. Love for them is not something they share with you. It's something they extract through the sense of achievement they gain by possessing you. And the truth is, behind the illusion of connection, there isn't someone who loves you. There is someone who is deeply in love with themselves. Facing that truth is not easy, but it is the first real step toward healing. If you've never experienced this before, it's almost impossible not to fall into a narcissist trap. And it's not because you're emotionally weak. Even the strongest people can be drawn into it because the method they use doesn't look like manipulation at first. It looks like love, right? In the early stages of the relationship, the same script is always played out. It begins with a sentence that sounds like praise. You're amazing, but then it evolves into something else. You're amazing, but your family doesn't deserve you. You're valuable, but your siblings never appreciated you. You're incredible, but your friends have only ever used you. At first, these statements sound like affection. They're delivered so gently, so warmly, that you start to believe you've never been loved this deeply before. And you think to yourself, someone who loves me this much couldn't possibly be lying. It's at this point that your mind's defense mechanisms begin to shut down. And without realizing it, you start to drift away from the connections that matter most to you. You call your family less often. You grow distant with your siblings. You respond to your friends late or not at all, okay? As the days pass, your once broad social circle begins to shrink, and eventually, only one person remains the narcissist. They become the center of your world. Without even noticing it, your entire life starts to orbit around them. And as that isolation deepens, so does your dependency on them. Over time, their behavior begins to change. You hear hurtful comments, you feel humiliated, but at that point, you feel like you have nowhere else to go. A voice inside says, for better or worse, they're all I have left. And when you reach that moment, the second act of the cycle begins. The mask comes off, and they no longer feel the need to hide their real face, because now they know you can't leave. From that point on, they may openly belittle you. They insult you without hesitation. They devalue you. Let's say you gained a little weight. What feels like a small shift to you becomes a tool of shame for them. They use your body to hurt you. Or maybe you have a powerful career. You're a cardiac surgeon. You've trained for years and saved dozens of lives. The narcissist's response is simple. You don't know what you're talking about. Or perhaps you're a psychologist. You've worked with hundreds of clients, but in their eyes, everything you say is just a story. The narcissist doesn't just sit at the center of the relationship. They also take on the role of the one who knows everything. They begin to dictate what you should feel, what you should think, even who you should be. And over Chimi, you start to feel inadequate, even in the areas where you were once most confident. No matter how successful you are, no matter how hard you try, in their eyes, you're either not enough or you care too much about things that don't matter. And what's even more unsettling is that eventually you begin to accept this because you no longer have a reality of your own. They become your reality, and that is the painful truth. Your sense of truth is no longer grounded in the outside world. It becomes defined through their eyes. But this is not a relationship. This is isolation. This is a carefully constructed loneliness built by slowly pulling you away from your community, your family, and even your own inner voice. And in order to survive in that loneliness, you try to soothe yourself with the illusion of love. But it isn't love. It never was. It was always just part of the performance. And the longer it continues, the more you begin to revolve around them, losing your center in the process. As Chimmy passes, the narcissistic relationship begins to erode your self-worth like a caterpillar slowly eating through a leaf from the inside out. You may have started as someone strong, someone grounded, self-aware, confident, but as the relationship continues, the devaluation begins to seep in. And at some point, a thought emerges, maybe they're right. Maybe I'm overreacting. And the moment that thought appears, something inside you starts to crack. That's the moment the relationship takes on a new shape. Let's say you're highly competent in your field, maybe even someone others look up to, someone respected by your peers or admired on a global level. But if the narcissist continues to belittle you, to criticize you relentlessly, one morning you wake up and you can't even look in the mirror. You feel ashamed of your body, you grow distant from your own work, you lose touch with the dreams you spent years building. Even the question, who am I, starts to feel unfamiliar. And this is where the most dangerous shift begins. A part of you starts to crave their approval. Like a child, you begin to look into their eyes for validation. And the moment you say to yourself, please just notice me, please appreciate me just once, almost nothing remains of the strong version of yourself you once knew. The devaluation phase is the most destructive stage of a narcissistic relationship. What happens here isn't just emotional pain, it's a systematic dismantling. First, they isolate you from your family, your friends, your community. Then they begin to fracture your confidence, your self-belief, your identity. They plant words so deep inside you that at some point, you realize you're no longer at peace with yourself. You begin to question your own existence. Eventually, you find yourself clinging to the smallest scraps of their attention. It becomes a form of addiction, but it happens so slowly, so subtly, that you hardly even notice.
Don't forget to subscribe.
And yet, from time to time, a voice rises inside. You say, I don't deserve this. I'm not this person. I don't have to tolerate this. And in that moment, you decide to leave. You say, I'm done. I can't do this anymore. So what happens next? The love bombing returns, but this time it's shorter, more calculated. They say, I only did it for your own good. I just wanted what was best for you. They try, once again, to pull you back with words, and more often than not, they succeed. Because the child inside of you still wants to believe in love, still wants to hold on to hope. But then the familiar cycle starts all over again. Once the dizzying wave of affection passes, the devaluation returns. Same words, same cutting tone, same neglect. And with each round, you grow more tired, more quiet. That's when human nature takes over. The more effort you put into a relationship, the more your mind starts to attach to it. You begin to think, I've invested so much. I've endured so much. If I walk away now, it'll all be for nothing. And as time passes, you lose sight of the fact that the very thing that hurts you most is also what's holding you in place. Sometimes people bond to pain itself as long as they believe there's meaning in it. This is no longer a relationship. It's a woven emotional cage. And within it, you continue to believe you're loved. But in truth, you are already deeply alone, more than you've ever been. In a relationship with a narcissist, the longer you're exposed to them, the harder it becomes to break free. Because every day, the cycle works like a vortex pulling you in. Especially as the devaluation phase deepens, the narcissist begins to feed off your inner energy, quietly but relentlessly. They drain you, weaken you, and slowly pull you away from yourself. What's truly disturbing about this kind of emotional manipulation is that it doesn't just affect your thoughts or your self-esteem. It rewires your brain. The sharp crashes that follow intense emotional highs activate the same neural pathways we see in addiction. And over Chimi, you begin to crave a person you know is harming you, because your nervous system has come to associate them with intensity, with approval, with identity. This is why people stay in these relationships. Not because it feels good, but because the brain has learned to equate chaos with connection. That is the real power of the cycle. This is where a critical biological truth comes into play. The human brain, when faced with constant uncertainty, when it can't predict what will happen, or when it enters a state of chronic stress, the sympathetic nervous system becomes overactivated. In relationships involving trauma, where one day you feel loved and the next you are ignored, the body floods with stress hormones like cortisol and adrenaline. Elevated cortisol levels impair memory, disrupt sleep, weaken immune function, and even reduce your ability to experience joy. That's why many people still feel numb, frozen, or stuck, even after the relationship ends. The good news is that the brain is highly adaptable. With the right tools, consistent support, therapy, and healthy relationships, the nervous system can be regulated again, and the person can begin to reclaim the self they believed they had lost. There's another important factor related to the brain's reward system. The occasional bursts of intense affection, praise, or reconciliation from a narcissistic partner activate the dopamine system. This mimics the cycle we see in addictive behavior. The brain starts chasing those short-lived moments of pleasure, and as a result, a person may stay attached even to someone who consistently causes them pain, because the system is trained to respond not to stability, but to intensity. And intensity often gets confused with love, even when it's toxic. Even when the person becomes aware of this, detaching becomes difficult, because the nervous system has already been conditioned to that person. And finally, leaving this kind of relationship isn't just about making a logical decision. It also involves something known as trauma bonding, a condition shaped by prolonged exposure to stress and feelings of worthlessness. Trauma bonding is when a person becomes emotionally attached to someone who is actively harming them. It's especially common in individuals who experienced emotional neglect or feelings of inadequacy during childhood. That's why ending a narcissistic relationship is not just a breakup. It is a complete reconstruction. You are not just letting go of a partner. You are letting go of the version of yourself that was built around them. And what's left of you, do you know? The sparkle in your eyes is gone. The confident, elegant, strong person you once were has faded. In their place stands someone who now pleads for love, craves approval, quietly begs not to be insulted. Please just love me. Please see me. Please make me feel the way I used to. You find yourself facing a version of you that has been deeply broken. And that is the moment when the narcissist turns their attention to someone new. When they find a new target, someone more attractive, more exciting, more socially validated, or simply more novel. That's all it takes. They walk away without a word, as if you never existed, as if those loving days never happened. You are left alone, trying to understand what just happened, because you gave everything to that relationship. You gave your heart, your energy, your soul. The memories of the early days play in your mind. You say, but this is what we had. I made sacrifices for you. But what do? Sometimes nothing at all. They vanish without a trace. Or worse, they blame you. You weren't enough. You're the one who failed. And just like every stage before, they continue to belittle you, even as they leave. The stage of abandonment is exactly why the trauma runs so deep. You try to make sense of what happened. For days, sometimes weeks, you question yourself. What did I do wrong? What mistake did I make? You search for answers. And when none come, you turn inward. Depression begins. Loneliness sets in. You withdraw. But with Chimi, that initial enchantment, the fog created by the narcissist, slowly begins to lift. You start to wake up. You reconnect with reality. And that awakening is the very first step toward healing. But the process does not end there, because this story always includes a return. And that return might be the most dangerous part of all. The narcissist has left you. They walked away after treating you with contempt, cruelty, and indifference. They left because of their own faults, but the world does not always move according to their plan. Sometimes their new target resists. Sometimes the person they tried to manipulate sees through them. And when that happens, the narcissist turns back to you. You remember those infamous messages? They usually arrive late at night. Are you asleep? I can't do this without you. I miss you so much. You were truly one of a kind. It sounds familiar, doesn't it? And here lies the most dangerous part of the return. All the humiliation, the emotional wounds, and the hurt you experienced before have already left deep scars on your self-worth. So you become vulnerable to those messages. You tell yourself, maybe this time it's real. Maybe they've realized their mistakes. Maybe we can heal together. The voice in your heart comes from kindness. But the reality is usually something else entirely. Because the narcissist does not come back to reconnect. They come back to fill a void, to fix a momentary emotional deficit by using you. They do not see you as a whole human being. They see you as someone to repair their emotional damage. That is why they knock on your door again. And then what happens? The same cycle begins all over again. But this time it is faster, sharper, more exhausting. The displays of affection that lasted 3 months, the first time might only last 2 weeks now. Then the insults begin again. The belittling returns. And once again, you are abandoned until someone new appears on their radar. The cycle with you never truly ends. It just shifts direction. You are kept in place until someone else is ready. You are used to fill the gap. And unless this cycle is broken, it repeats itself over and over. Some people will go through this with the same person 4 or 5 times, each time with hope, each time with a deeper wound. So let me tell you something very clearly. If you have been in a relationship with a narcissist and you are slowly waking up, if you are beginning to see what they put you through, please do not give them another chance. Even if they have truly changed, their healing should not happen with you. Let them go test themselves with someone else. You need to protect yourself now. You need to guard your soul. That is a reflection of the respect you owe to yourself. If you have been in a relationship with a narcissist and you felt lost in this cycle, I want you to share your experience in the comments. Your awareness might be the very thing that gives someone else the strength to walk away before it's too late. Maybe you will help them avoid falling into the same trap. I am also preparing a video series on narcissistic personality disorder and the psychology behind these relationships. You can find all the links to my videos in the description below. Thank you for being here, beautiful soul. Don't forget to follow me so we can keep walking this journey together. Until the next video, take very good care of yourself.